The Bridge on the River Kwai came out in 1957 and is a total war epic from David Lean. It swept the Academy Awards, and we're covering it today on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. My name is Harry Bailey, joined by my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, how are you?
Really excited because finally, this is a movie I've been wanting to watch for a long time, and
Same.
yeah, great excuse to watch it with the podcast. But it also, spoiler alert, very much lived up to the hype for me, so I can't wait to get into it. But yeah, I'm doing pretty well. How about you, Harry?
Yeah, all good. Again, this has been on the list for as far as I can remember. So great to finally take it off the list. And then as well, next week, with our final one of the month, we had The Sound of Music, another really long film that neither of us had seen before, which we are ticking off the list. A lot of list ticking this month. But yeah, this film annihilated the Academy Awards, it's safe to say. Worth noting, similar to poor old Dana Andrews last week, poor old William Holden got no love at the awards. Harsh in my opinion, because he's brilliant in this, but it won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Editing, and Best Score. And of course, Sessue Hayakawa was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. We almost gave the award to a foreigner. Would have been a bit of a stretch maybe, but oh my god, is he amazing in this film.
I think in the case of William Holden, the fact that he had won for Stalag 17, which is thematically very similar. Obviously, in that they're both prisoner of war set films, set in prisoner of war
film we have
camps,
covered on the podcast.
which we have, yeah, exactly, and it's a brilliant performance. But the fact that it's a fairly similar thematic film probably worked against him in the sense that it's like, right, we already gave him an Oscar for that. We're not going to go and give him an award for a very similar kind of character, a similar performance, I suppose. But but look, it's a great performance nevertheless. Like I always say, I don't really care about the Oscars because they've done a lot of bullshit down the years. But spoiler alert, I think they got this one pretty. I mean, it's again similar to last week where I said, as much as I loved The Best Years of Our Lives, it wouldn't have been my favourite movie of 1946. This, as amazing as it is, still wouldn't be my favourite movie of 1957. But again, I can also see why it swept the awards and why it's. I don't think it's. I think it was such a strong year that there was 2 or 3 films that easily could have done won a bunch of awards this year, and this was very much one of them. Great movie.
Of course, I have to bite. Because we've covered a fair few films from 1957 on the podcast. Which one would you have given it to?
12 Angry Men, for me personally.
Yeah. Valid. I personally would have gone Plan 9 from Outer Space, but that's just me. It's a fictional retelling of the construction of the Burma Railway, based on a novel by the name of Bridge Over the River Kwai. And is the podcast debut of Alec Guinness, who really does Alec Guinness it up in this in the best way possible. Died 3 days before I was born, which is funny because when I was thinking earlier, like when I watched it for the first time, I was thinking, I don't remember Alec Guinness being alive. Like I always remember him being the dead guy from Star Wars.
Same.
And I've since looked into it, and that's because he died 3 days before I was actually born. But yeah, this film, monster success in literally every way possible. David Lean nearly died from drowning whilst making it. And Jeffrey Horn, one of the actors in the film, actually saved his life. He's the guy that plays, begins with a P, the young guy who's got that insane scene.
Lieutenant Joyce.
Joyce, that's it. Yeah, begins with a P. Lieutenant Joyce. Why did I think his name began with a P? Anyway, yeah. Besides David Lean nearly dying making this, it was a major success. You've got William Holden, who plays an American who has been in this camp run by Saito for quite a while. He eventually escapes, and we then basically follow his life out of the camp and the lads under Nicholson, Alec Guinness's character's command, what their life is like in the camp until they, believe it or not, they meet again in an insane way. But yeah, spoiler-free review. I think this is absolutely exceptional. Definitely one of the best picture winners of the sort of classic era. Right up there for me. Unbelievable first time watching this. Not to get too spoilery, but the ending is as great as every Watch Mojo and Cinefix list would have you believe. William Holden is brilliant. Alec Guinness is so good. Sosue Hayakawa is brilliant. And as well, shout out Jack Hawkins as well. He's very good in this. He's not in it as much as them three, but he's also very good in it. I love that this bridge represents such different things to all four of them, and kind of their perspective on the bridge kind of reflects literally their perspective on life itself. The bridge is a character in this film, and it really gets a lot out of those kind of four guys in particular. But as well, that guy Joyce, who we just mentioned, also isn't in it for very long, but he is a very impactful character when he is in it. There's a scene with him and Hawkins' character, Warden, where they're running through the jungle, and the end of that scene is insane. It like literally made me audibly gasp. But yeah, David Lean, a phrase I've used a few times on the podcast, directs the shit out of this movie. It is a big old movie, and boy was David Lean a fan of making those, the big ones. And yeah, I literally couldn't say enough good things about it. It is a war movie that doesn't necessarily center around war as a conflict, but more war as a career, and I just find that really interesting. Yeah. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I co-sign anything you just said. I absolutely love this. I think Sesue Hayakawa, I'd not seen him before, but he's brilliant as Saito, the camp commander.
Yeah.
Just kind of pathetic, but also really dastardly when he needs to be. And like, yeah, I think he brings a whole range of emotions to that character, because he's pathetic when you need him to be, but he's also very scary when you need him to be. And yeah, you can tell why he obviously got a lot of love with the Oscars, and why he got a lot of love in the award season. William Holden, it's again, like I said, it's a really good performance, but I think what worked against him, as I mentioned a bit earlier, is that it's probably not a million miles away from his performance in Stalag 17, which he did win the Oscar for. And then Alec Guinness, just brilliant performance. Just really commands the screen every time he's on it. The whole battle of wills that we get for pretty much the first hour of this movie between him and Saito is just riveting. He's just locked away in this box, getting the sun's locked away in this box, so you don't even see him for a lot of the runtime, for the first 45 minutes to an hour of this movie. But you can really still feel, even when he's not on screen, you can feel his presence. You can feel the fact that he's taking this principled stand. He's willing to kind of die for what he believes in, or certainly what he's been trained to believe in. And then that just makes everything that comes after that fact all the more kind of like, every decision he makes after that fact, it just becomes more and more frustrating. And it's like, you literally made your point so well, and it's like, we'll obviously come on to all that stuff, but like, he plays that his character's descent into kind of madness effectively. That's effectively what it is descent into madness. He plays it so well, because it's like, you can tell that he's just ever so slightly losing his grasp on reality, or losing his grasp on what he's supposed to be doing in this situation. Like, he's literally helping the enemy, and he doesn't even realize it. Somehow does not realize it. Brilliant performance. As you said, it's directed so well from David Lean. Like, he is such a master of this kind of big scale kind of politically charged, politically motivated drama, where it's like you have these two very, very different competing ideals and attitude and stuff, and then just have them clash. And yeah, he's brilliant. He's obviously like a big influence for like a lot of kind of modern day blockbuster filmmaking. But he's just, yeah, he's such a master. What a director.
And now it's time for that portion of the podcast, that kind of meaty portion of the podcast, where we discuss the film in depth with all the spoilers that you can think of. So Shane, I must ask you this week, the bridge on the River Kwai, what is it all about?
Yeah, so it's set in this prisoner of war camp that the Japanese obviously have control of. Saito, played by Sessue Hayakawa, is the commander of this camp, and he is, shall we say, not exactly a major proponent of the Geneva Convention. He doesn't exactly believe in it.
Not quite.
No, yeah, he's willing to kind of slightly ignore it when needs be. I say slightly, obviously. I mean, he doesn't take it into effect whatsoever, because he's been having the American, he has a bunch of American prisoners, and he's been basically working them to the bone for, yeah, it's alluded to, for months, if not years. And one of these is Commander Shears, who essentially bribes a couple of the prison wardens, or the prison kind of officers, in order to kind of get some time in the sick bay so that he doesn't have to work, because obviously he's quite drained emotionally, physically, and he's just kind of taking whatever win he can get at this point. He's just kind of coasting by until the war's done, one way or the other, until he can finally kind of get home and just kind of put the whole thing behind him. And on this day, a bunch of British soldiers led by Nicholson, who's played by Alec Guinness, they're kind of march into the camp, and that's when we get this speech by Saito, who kind of lays the law down. He says this is the way it's going to be, and he obviously calls up Nicholson, and Nicholson politely tells him, listen, that's all well and good, but you're forgetting about this little thing called the Geneva Convention. And Saito is having none of it. He's like, no, listen, this is my camp. This is how it's going to run. And if you don't like it, then I'm going to send you all off to kind of purgatory, essentially a kind of purgatory, where I'm going to work your officers to the bone, and then your higher ranking officials, I'm just going to make you all kind of pay until you get in line with what I say and what I want to do. And then, like I said earlier, you have this whole then competing battle of kind of wills between Nicholson and Saito for most of the first hour of this movie, and it's absolutely riveting.
Yeah, so it is interesting, their sort of mental chess game that they play. Saito wants the officers as well as the quote-unquote men to help build the railway, which is a strict violation of the Geneva Convention, and Nicholson just flat out refuses. So on the first day of work, the men go to work on the railway, whilst the officers stand exactly where they were stood that morning, and they stand there until the end of the working day, except for one poor lad who collapses. That would have been me. But the lads all come back in after a hard day's work, and Saito then takes Nicholson. Well, first of all, Nicholson actually pulls out a copy of the Geneva Convention, which, amazing. Saito takes it off him and hits him across the face with the literal Geneva Convention. And he brings Nicholson into his hut, and Nicholson gets beaten within an inch of his life and put in what they call the oven, which is this really small metal shed, which in the hot weather basically cooks whatever's inside of it. And he is in there for an unholy amount of time, as you said, like a fair portion of the runtime. And all the officers are sent to what is called the punishment hut, I think, which again doesn't sound like a whole barrel of laughs. But in the meantime, Sears, played by William Holden, and two other lads who he's befriended, decide, you know what, we are literally not going to... I think he has the line, something along the lines of... the odds of survival in this camp are slimmer than the odds of surviving escape.
Yeah.
So he leaves, and it's great. There's a couple of moments then, because no one sees each other none of them three kind of see each other for a long time until Saito eventually lets Nicholson out of the box. But for the next sort of few hours, there's a few moments where both Nicholson and Sears are like, I wonder whatever happened to that guy, because they are just so opposed to each other. But yeah, Sears' escape plan doesn't work. The two lads he's escaping with both get killed, and he gets shot and falls into a river. But the river manages to carry him to this small village where the people take him in and look after him and kind of recuperating for a bit until they get him a boat. But he doesn't get very far in that boat. He passes out, and eventually he gets picked up by the military. In the meantime, the lads are working on this railway over the River Kwai, and they are absolutely making a balls of it. It keeps falling, and I have to say, the shots of them constructing the bridge are massive. They are incredible. Like stuff that you just don't see anymore. Like, these are massive, massive, monstrous shots of people actually on a gigantic bridge and it collapsing and them all falling into this big body of water. It is incredible to behold, and it's pretty. The rather prim and proper English are like, well, you could tell that the engineers are all wrong, but Nicholson's still in the oven, so they can't do much about it. Eventually, Nicholson gets out of the oven to have a chat with Saito, and they have this amazing conversation. The sort of mental mind game continues, where you can tell that Nicholson can barely walk. He's pale as a ghost. He refuses his dinner, though, out of principle from Saito. And Saito just can't comprehend why Nicholson and the officers won't just work on the railway, because like otherwise you're just going to die in the box in the punishment hut anyway, so why wouldn't you just die but like prolong your death? And Nicholson keeps saying that he has to do things the right way, which in his head is by following the rules to a T. And that is the Geneva Convention. Saito's like, but you literally know that like in every single Japanese POW camp, no one's following the Geneva Convention. So I don't know what you expect from me. Like, I'm obviously not going to follow it either, because if I don't get this bridge built before I think it's the 16th of May,
12th.
I have to kill myself. Part of the tradition over there, if he lets his superiors down, he has to kill himself, and he does not want to do that. But yeah, again, it's just brilliant. They go through this sort of mental battle of wills. Nicholson's put back in the oven again, and then eventually they just get no progress with this bridge, and Nicholson gets back out again, and then they have another conversation where Nicholson's like, look, I'm not even saying that like you're wrong for building this bridge or anything, but what I'm saying is you're building it all wrong. And Nicholson puts down this insane plan where like the men have to work harder and longer hours, and they need to be stricter on the men. These are his men in a prisoner of war camp in order to get this bridge built. And that really does reflect Nicholson as a character, I feel. But then, yeah, the film goes to some really interesting places then.
Yeah, 100%, because you can tell like there's a whole kind of apologies to any English English listeners, but you do have this whole kind of English arrogance and English exceptionalism where like we know how to do this correctly, and I can do this for you like exactly the way it should be done, and like it's not going to fall down. It's going to be there for years and years and years to come. And so you have that whole element to it, but then you also have the fact that Nicholson doesn't understand. Somehow he just doesn't cop the fact that like he's literally in one fell swoop he's gone against everything he's just been doing for the last few weeks or months. Like his whole principled stand is just going out the window, and he somehow doesn't realize it. But yeah, Shears is back at the British military camp, and we soon learn that he's actually having a great time. To be fair, like he's going to be flying back to America soon, and he's
like James Bond,
having a couple of hot dates, and he's lying out on the beach, and he's getting a good tan, and just having a great time really. And then he gets a visit a couple of days before he's due to fly out from a major warden of the British military, and he kind of wants him to help him locate exactly where this prisoner of war camp is and where this bridge is going to be built in the jungle. And eventually, after some kind of persuading, he says, like, I'll go and help you tomorrow morning. I'll see what I can do to help you. So he gets there the following morning. He gets there. And we soon learn that, yeah, well, maybe Shears didn't exactly tell the truth to the British military, because he wasn't this high-ranking military official. He was, in fact, like a very lowly kind of officer. And, yeah, he effectively, because he wanted preferential treatment in this camp, he massaged the truth, shall we say. He took he did a Don Draper. If anyone has seen Mad Men, he kind of took the identity of one of his higher ups, one of the higher ranking officials that kind of had died previously, because he wanted some preferential treatment in this prisoner of war camp. And so he's in a bit of a sticky situation because the American military don't really want this to come out. And so they essentially fob him off to the British, and the British are like, yeah, well, like, we could, like, reveal this information about you, technically. And so he feels like he doesn't really have any choice but to be like, all right, I'll help you then. I'll help you go to the camp. And, yeah, look, I'll help you. And then we're done then after that. We're done. So this is Shears has the whole situation coming to him as well.
Yeah, we get an amazing scene. It's really funny because William Holden's really funny in this film.
He is,
where they basically assemble a team then of people to break back into the POW camp to blow up the bridge. So the first person on the team was Warden, played by Jack Hawkins, who basically is the one obsessed with this whole plan itself. He blew up bridges all over Singapore and everything. He wants to blow up this bridge, and he wants to take Shears with him because Shears obviously knows his way around the area. They have a third guy, and then they take this young fella from the academy by the name, it begins with a P, Joyce. But just before they leave, they go through the plan, and they're like, right, so I'll parachute in. And Shears kind of sees his opportunity. He's like, oh, well, I've never parachuted before, so I'm gonna need a few days to learn how to parachute. And then they're like, well, we've actually run the numbers, and if you were to parachute once, you have a 30% chance of injuring yourself, and if you do it twice, you have a 50%, and 3 times, you have an 80%. So we're gonna hedge our bets, and the first time you parachute will be into the jungle. And then whatever, he's like fuming at this, and then they're like, right, so we'll all be set to jump off the plane, and he's like, with or without a parachute, which is just funny. But yeah, oh my god, the shot of the plane flying over the jungle is so good. It's David Lean, it's so class. They all parachute, and third guy, notice I don't remember his name, third guy dies instantly.
Yeah.
Third guy hits a tree and dies. R.I.P. third guy. You were great. So it leaves Joyce, Warden, and Shears, and then a bunch of locals from the village that recuperated Shears, who are all going to go back to the POW camp. And yeah, it's fascinating. On their way there, we figure out a lot about Warden's character. Similar to Shears, he kind of views this bridge as like just the epitome of the worst. Like, he just wants to blow that thing up. Like, in his head, it's like, fuck the opposition, fuck the Japanese, we're blowing that bridge up, we're gonna ruin everything for them. Whereas Shears is more just like, yeah, I guess we have to blow it up so I can get home. And then you've got poor Joyce, and the whole time they kind of question whether Joyce has that killer instinct that if it came down to it, could he knife a man? Well, holy shit, is that scene grisly. So the lads and some of the women from the village are kind of lounging at this waterfall when the Japanese soldiers find them. They find the women first, and they kind of grab them all. So the 3 lads open fire and kill all but one Japanese soldier. So Joyce goes straight after him, and then Warden goes after Joyce. And they're chasing him and chasing him and chasing him and chasing him. And you kind of think that this actually could be how Joyce dies, just because of how quickly third guy got dispatched of. Yeah. This could be into Joyce. But no, Joyce does get to the guy, pulls out his knife, and the guy turns around and looks about 13 years of age. And Joyce just absolutely cowers and feels sick. And then Warden, without even seeing the guy, just jumps in and stabs him to death, like, repeatedly. And it is, like, trauma. It is absolutely traumatizing, to a point where even Warden gets up and sees the guy, and then he's traumatized by everything that's just happened. They've basically just killed, not quite a child soldier, but an incredibly young person. And again, they just have to kind of brush it off. But in and amongst all this, Warden's also totally done his ankle in, which kind of hampers him for the rest of the film.
Yeah, he tries to put Shears in charge, but Shears comes out with this impassioned speech. Probably the one time we've seen him show a bit of like backbone in the film, really. To be fair, like, obviously I'm not counting the fact that he tried to escape, because like anyone probably would. But yeah, like, he'd been trying to weasel his way off going back to this camp for like most of the rest of the film. But he's like, look, listen, you have your reasons for wanting to blow up the bridge. I get it, but like, I'm not gonna, like, we're all here for a reason. We're gonna either do it all together, or we're not gonna do it at all. And so they do carry Warren to this camp. Meanwhile, back at the camp, Nicholson is just basically lost it completely. He's getting like sick soldiers off their out of the kind of sick bed, and getting them to try and finish the bridge on time, because like they're really up against it in terms of time. Like, they're probably going to miss the deadline, it looks like. And so he's, not only has he completely changed his position from earlier, but he's literally putting sick soldiers that he's in charge of, like, in jeopardy, because like they could literally die if they are exposed to heat or exposed to kind of these working conditions.
Yeah, it's not like these lads are pulling a sickie. Like, when they all walk out of the sick bay, they're all limping, they're all coughing, they're all in bits.
Yeah.
Like, he's actually making the sick work.
Yeah, like, they're not, like I said, they're not pulling a fast one. They are genuinely in a bad way. So we get the great scene the night beforehand where they finally make it to the camp, and that scene where they're kind of rigging the whole bridge up is just, it's methodical, but it's also like, it's like the calm before the storm, where you can really tell they've, I don't know exactly, as a viewer, all I can say was, it was just riveting. The whole scene was, like, you want them obviously to pull off this plan and stuff, but it's also like, you know that if you do, then all this work from the British soldiers will have gone down the drain. So you've got that. Even though that's because otherwise,
it's like these poor lads are slaving away just for this one fella who's an absolute pyromaniac, who's on their side, who's obsessed with blowing it up once they're finished.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also like, if they don't blow it up, you know, the Japanese are going to use it for a lot of bad. Like, they're going to be using it kind of to obviously cargo weapons and machinery and stuff into like areas where they can actually do a lot more harm on top of what they're already going to be doing. And so yeah, like, it does have to be blown up, but it's just, you've got this whole, like, the movie does reach a point of tipping point, a crescendo at this point. It's just really, really fascinating and interesting, the kind of the emotional kind of dilemmas that they're all going through, especially Shears, William Holden's character. And then we actually get to the opening of the bridge itself. So they cut the ribbon and stuff, and Nicholson's pretty proud of his handiwork, and just the whole scene. So the soldiers, because they do like this whole, they have like a party the night before where he kind of thanks them more for their effort, and he says, look, yous are going to go to the town tomorrow morning. We're going to follow in a few days' time. So the soldiers do cross the bridge and are on the way. And so Nicholson is, just before the train is coming, you can kind of hear the train in the background, but Nicholson's just kind of admiring his handiwork, and he's just looking over the outside of there. He's looking down to the rivers and stuff, and that scene where he first notices something and he's like, hang on, that's not right. And he's slowly walking his way along. He's like, that doesn't look right either. Guinness is so great in that scene. And then he's going to hire a cow. He's like, yeah, look, that's not right. And then they both go down into the kind of riverbed, and that's where he finally spots the explosives. And he's like, the whole scene, the lads are waiting in the bushes in the jungle, and they're going through the whole gamut of emotions. It's just
it's so like 2 hours and 20 minutes of like a slow burn up to this like insanely tense scene.
It's unbelievably tense because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if Nicholson's going to cop what's actually going on and play along, realize what's happening and play along, or if he's going to blow the whole thing up by not blowing it up. Like it's brilliant.
Yeah, so you've got Nicholson and Saito who hand in hand are following the detonator wire because the river has gone down overnight, so it's much more visible than it was. And they're going towards Joyce, poor young Joyce, who is in charge of actually detonating the explosives. And then on the other side of the river, you've got one of the locals and Shears who helped him do it. But they, like, I don't know, they're on the other side of the river as lookouts, I suppose. And then high up with all the other locals is Warden because he'd done his ankle in, so he wasn't able to actually put the explosives down there. And as well, as worth noting as well, there's one guy in it who's probably the most morally understandable character called Clifton, who's like the medbay officer.
Yeah.
He refuses to have any part in the opening of the bridge and decides to basically just sit up and watch it. And we are basically Clifton for this scene. Because we actually get a shot of like his reaction to all of this happening, and he's like, "What the fuck?" Which is like same, but yeah, Saito and Nicholson are going towards Joyce, getting closer and closer to him. You've got Shears and the local who are basically shouting over to Joyce, like, "Just get up and shoot him, blow it, blow it, blow it." Joyce doesn't know what to do because he's literally like fresh out of the academy, and then up above, with like a rocket launcher type thing, is Warden. And then it hits the crescendo. Rockets start shooting up. The Japanese start firing down on them. Shears and the local guys start firing over at Nicholson and Saito. Eventually, Saito gets stabbed in the back, but Shears then kills Joyce. Well, Joyce gets shot and Shears kind of like seals the deal. Sorry, Nicholson seals the deal with Joyce, which is wild because he stands up then and he sees him and he sees the detonator and he has this incredible moment where he's like,
amazing line,
"What have I done?" And it is peak. Shears at this point has been riddled with bullets on his way across the river by the Japanese, and he takes out he tries to take out Nicholson because Nicholson's also basically stopping them from blowing up the bridge without even realizing it. And Shears gets shot a few more times in front of Nicholson and dies in front of him. And then Warden's explosives from his rocket launcher blow up in front of Nicholson, who then collapses and lands like neck first on the detonator, which is such a great touch, and blows that bridge.
It looks amazing.
In a glorious, gigantic explosion as the train is coming across it, which plunges the train into the river. It is such a violent ending to such a methodical film. And then, Clifton, the medbay officer, is just like, lads, what the fuck? His mind is blown because this has seemingly come from nowhere. Insane ending. We just pull away from it then in like a big helicopter shot. It's crazy. What an ending. What a film. David Lean, master of the big epics, delivers an absolutely monstrous epic. 4.5 stars. This is exceptional. There's one line I wish I had quoted earlier, which is in the first meeting between Saito and Nicholson. Saito explains, would you follow the Geneva Convention if you were in my shoes? Like, if you were me, what would you do? Because if I don't build the bridge, I'm going to have to kill myself. And this is after Nicholson has refused to drink. And then Nicholson goes, well, I suppose if I were you, I'd just kill myself now. Cheers. And then he finally takes a drink, which is just class. So amazing. Mind-blowing film. Massive film. The massive in every way. The scope, the length, the amount of time you think about it after the fact, it is a really memorable, amazing Best Picture winner. Yeah, look, 12 Angry Men didn't win, but that's not to say The Bridge on the River Kwai didn't deserve to win. Yeah. It is a monstrous film. It is enormous in the best way. Alec Guinness, unbelievable. William Holden, unbelievable. Sasue Hayakawa, unbelievable. So many amazing scenes. That little whistle that the soldiers do first when they march into the POW camp, and then when they march across the bridge after they built it, iconic as hell. So iconic. Yeah. And then, of course, the blowing up of the bridge is just chef's kiss. It is cinema. It is incredible. Bridge on the River Kwai, wholeheartedly, I would recommend this to you. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I gave this 4.5 stars. Loved every minute of it. Didn't feel the runtime at all. Which, as much as I did like Lawrence of Arabia, and there's so many amazing things about that movie, but to be honest, it's quite long, and I did feel the runtime on a bunch of occasions in that movie. This is like, obviously, I think it's like probably half an hour maybe, or 40 minutes shorter, but it's still a very long movie. It's close to 3 hours. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel it at all. No. It flew by for me. I was totally invested. Even the first hour where it's just a cat and mouse. It's a battle of wills, a chess game, like you said, between Nicholson and Saito, and nothing much happens apart from, I suppose, Shears escaping the camp. It's still really kind of engaging and riveting, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how it's going to play out, and then everything from that moment on, where Nicholson somehow, some way decides, without even realizing, to help Saito build this bridge, and everything to do with Warden assembling this team and into the jungle. It's just it's a very fast-paced film. Like you'd be forgiven for thinking it's quite a kind of relaxed film pace-wise, but it's actually like a lot happens. It's just such an assured direction. Like, it's so assuredly directed that you don't really feel it. Like, it's hitting all the beats it needs to hit, even when it's not exactly going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's such a good movie. It's such a great movie. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Alec Guinness, amazing. Sesue Hayakawa, amazing. And yeah, just I will definitely be rewatching this movie a bunch of times for sure.
100%. Well, yeah, that was the episode of the Golden Hour Film Podcast where we covered The Bridge and the River Kwai. Shane, I assume you haven't time for Guess the Movie, have you?
I'm gonna have to, probably, because we're gonna be recording in about a few days, so maybe just hold off until then. I think I'm gonna have to leg it. I think.
Yeah, cool. To be honest, neither of us will probably have seen anything between now and then anyway, true, so we might actually do two Guess the Movies in a row then. Yeah. Because I have figured out the score is 7-all. So there you go. Perfect. But yeah, next week is our final episode of Academy Classics Volume 2. Our 1960s Best Picture winner, directed by Robert Wise, is a musical by the name of The Sound of Music. We are very much looking forward to covering that. Another rather long film, another rather great film, shall I say. But in the meantime, I have been Harry Bailey.
I've been Shane Maloney.
And that was the episode of the Golden Hour Film Podcast where we covered The Bridge on the River Kwai. Goodbye.